Good morning, I'm Craig DeGrelli. It's Wednesday, February 19th, 2025, and these are your Unbiased Updates. Full speed ahead, the Trump administration's Department of Government Efficiency wins a big round in court. What a judge said about DOGE's ability to fire federal employees. Also, President Trump issues an executive order to make in vitro fertilization more accessible and affordable. A look at some of the costs, the number of families affected, and reaction from the National Infertility Association.
From the Straight Arrow News Studio, bringing the stories that matter to you from across the United States and around the world, these are today's Unbiased Updates.
A federal judge has blocked an attempt by 14 states to deny Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, from accessing data systems or making personnel decisions at 7 federal agencies. In her ruling, U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan said the possibility that DOGE could harm the states is, quote, not enough to halt its activities. Chutkan, who presided over President Donald Trump's 2020 election interference criminal case before he was reelected, said the group of Democratic attorneys general led by New Mexico that brought the lawsuit, quote, legitimately call into question what appears to be the unchecked authority of an unelected individual and an entity that was not created by Congress and over which it has no oversight. But, added the attorneys general, have not linked any of DOGE's actions to any imminent harm in their states. In a court filing as part of the case, Musk is described as a White House employee serving as a senior advisor to the president, not an employee of DOGE. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt reinforced that position when asked by reporters yesterday.
First of all, President Trump is the ultimate decision maker for this entire administration. Elon Musk, just like everybody else across the federal government, works at the direction of President Trump. DOGE does not have statutory authority. We've been very clear about that. Again, DOGE is advising these agencies. It's ultimately up to the discretion of these secretaries to make these hirings and these firings.
Leavitt said Trump's cabinet members ultimately have the power to fire federal employees. DOGE just makes recommendations. Late last week, a different U.S. district judge also rejected a request to block DOGE from accessing records of 3 government agencies. President Trump has signed another executive order aimed at following through on one of his campaign promises. The order calls on the Assistant to the President for Domestic Policy to give Trump a list of policy recommendations for protecting in vitro fertilization, or IVF, access and, quote, aggressively reducing out-of-pocket and health plan costs for IVF treatment within 90 days. Straight Arrow News reporter Lauren Taylor has a look at how this could impact thousands of American families.
IVF is a series of medical procedures, including medications, surgeries, anesthesia, ultrasounds, blood tests, embryo storage, and transfer, which can help couples become pregnant after experiencing infertility. According to the executive action, about 1 in 7 families are unable to conceive, and the IVF process is expensive, ranging from $12,000 to about $25,000 per cycle, and it's not usually covered by health insurance.
The first is an executive order relating to the affordability and availability of in vitro fertilization and other fertility treatments. These are treatments that have become unaffordable for many Americans, or have been unaffordable for many Americans. And the executive order is a directive to the Domestic Policy Council to examine ways to make IVF and other fertility treatments more affordable for more Americans.
The president's order says the recommendations will focus on ensuring access to IVF treatments and how to make them more affordable. The order recognizes the importance of family formation and that our nation's public policy must make it easier for loving and longing mothers and fathers to have children, the order states. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, more than 85,000 babies were born via IVF in 2021. Republican Senator Katie Britt of Alabama, who has been at the forefront of championing access to IVF, celebrated the executive order, saying in a statement, IVF is fundamentally pro-family, helping aspiring parents across our nation start and grow their families. I couldn't be happier to see President Trump take this landmark step to expand access to this pathway to parenthood. On the other side, Democratic Senator Tammy Duckworth of Illinois, sponsor of the Right to IVF Act, which would provide a right to IVF, posted to X, "Don't be fooled. Trump's executive order does nothing to expand access to IVF. But if he's actually serious about delivering on his campaign promise, he can prove it by calling on Republicans to back My Right to IVF Act. Otherwise, it's all just lip service from a known liar. At this time, it's unclear if Congress will need to pass legislation to fulfill Trump's IVF recommendations.
That was our Lauren Taylor reporting. IVF became a big issue during the 2024 presidential campaign after the Alabama Supreme Court ruled frozen embryos are children, and those who destroy or damage them, including IVF providers, could be held liable for wrongful death. The state's Republican governor, Kay Ivey, later signed a bill giving civil and criminal immunity to providers and patients. As for this latest move by the president, Barbara Kalura, president and CEO of Resolve, the National Infertility Association, said the White House action looks extremely promising. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in the United Arab Emirates today, continuing his tour of the Middle East after yesterday's meeting with Russian officials in Saudi Arabia, where they discussed ending the war in Ukraine. After that meeting, Rubio said the U.S. and Russia have agreed to not only start working toward ending the war, but also improving diplomatic and economic ties between the United States and Russia. Rubio told the Associated Press the two countries have agreed on 3 goals: restoring staffing at their respective embassies in Washington and Moscow, creating a high-level team to support Ukraine peace talks, and to explore closer relations and economic cooperation. Ukraine was not involved in the talks to end the war, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said his country would not accept any outcome from them because of that. He also postponed his own trip to Saudi Arabia, scheduled for today. Meantime, while speaking with reporters at Mar-a-Lago, President Donald Trump directed these remarks at Ukraine.
But today I heard, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal.
Also today, Keith Kellogg, the U.S. Special Envoy for Ukraine and Russia, arrived in Kyiv today for talks with Ukrainian President Zelensky and military commanders. Zelensky has said any settlement ending the 3-year war will require American security commitments to keep Russia at bay. The latest round of winter storms is taking direct aim at the East Coast today, spreading across the Tennessee and Ohio valleys and threatening to dump heavy snow with possible ice buildup in several states, including Kentucky, where at least 14 people were killed due to the weekend storm that brought devastating flooding. The National Weather Service says up to 10 inches of snow is possible along the Atlantic coast in Virginia, and significant ice accumulations are forecast in eastern North Carolina. National Weather Service meteorologists say the most bitter cold is still to come, with record frigid temperatures likely to hit parts of the country early tomorrow and Friday. This all comes on the heels of a polar vortex that took over from Montana to southern Texas yesterday. Later today, federal Judge Dale Ho is holding a hearing in New York over the move by President Trump's Justice Department to throw out the criminal case against New York City Mayor Eric Adams. This comes after New York Governor Kathy Hochul held a meeting in New York on Tuesday with other Democrats to discuss using her powers to remove Adams, a fellow Democrat. The governor then decided to wait to see what the federal judge decides before moving forward and possibly ousting him. 4 New York City deputy mayors resigned en masse on Monday in protest of Adams remaining in office. The federal judge is asking the Justice Department to explain its reasoning for wanting to end the public corruption case against Adams, a move that came as prosecutors in the Southern District of New York were preparing an expanded indictment that would have charged Adams with destroying evidence and lying to the FBI. Supporters of the mayor believe he's being targeted because Adams is helping the Trump administration in its push to remove illegal immigrants from New York City. Finally this morning, a discovery more than 3,000 years in the making. Egyptian officials say that searchers have found the last of the tombs of ancient Egypt's 18th dynasty kings. A joint Egyptian-British archaeological mission discovered Thutmose II's tomb in the Mount of Thebes area west of Luxor and the renowned Valley of the Kings. The entrance and main passage into the tomb, which until now had been known only as tomb number C4, were discovered in 2022, and excavations have continued since then. The mummy of King Thutmose II was discovered at a different location during the 19th century. Experts say it was likely moved after being looted by tomb raiders. The discovery of Thutmose II's tomb marks the first royal Egyptian tomb to be discovered since King Tutankhamun's final resting place was found in 1922. How about that? Information you likely need to know if you're going on Jeopardy! Those are your unbiased updates for this Wednesday. We'll see you back here tomorrow. For all of us here at Straight Arrow News, I'm Craig DeGrelli. Have a great day.